Whether you know it or not, you are receiving healing from nature. Barbara Lawson is all kinds of special. She's a mom, a creative, a gardener, and she runs a program called Meet Me in the Dirt, where she stewards people to transform grief, depression, anxiety into healing and joy and wonder and creativity and connecting deeper with who they are. And she does this all through gardening. Barbara is full of heart and soul, and I am profoundly excited to share this conversation with you. Thanks for joining us for the Gardening Summit. You make yourself an amazing day. Big love. Barbara, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation in the Gardening Summit about meeting ourselves in the dirt and healing our mind, body, and soul through gardening.
You are welcome. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, I have goosebumps already. I'm just so excited to be in this conversation with you because I am a firm believer in the healing of gardening, both for ourselves personally and with Mother Nature. So just to be sharing your story is really inspiring and touches my heart. So thank you.
You are welcome. I'm glad to be here with you and with the rest of the
Yes. So Barbara, you have a really curious and interesting story. Tell me about when you first started gardening. How old were you?
Well, I'm from the South, in the States. I'm from Texas. And so I remember as a child being out there with my grandmother. She grew all sorts of fruit trees, and my grandfather was a landscaper. And so things that really have changed over the years were very normal to me when I was younger. My grandmother used to make preserves, so I saw the process and was able to benefit by it just being out there playing. That's the time when we used to actually go outside and play and stay out playing outside all day until the street lights came on. I don't think they do that anymore.
I agree. Something we could get back to for sure.
Girl, yes, we need to.
Yeah. And so you grew up with your hands in the soil. And I think that was really common a long time ago. And I think less and less children are experiencing that today.
Yes.
Although there's an uptick in curiosity and turning back towards that. So that's really exciting.
Yes.
And so is gardening something that kind of stayed with you throughout your life, or did you rediscover it at some point?
I rediscovered it. And I think all gardeners may have a similar story. Adulting causes us to fill our schedules with so much work and responsibility that being outside is one of the less, it's not on our priority list, quite honestly, and it makes us feel like it's a waste of time. People think about gardening, when they retire, they think about having that kind of, that kind of time to devote to it when you retire. But I reconnected myself when my older children were teenagers, and anyone who's raised kids knows that stage can, just be extremely challenging. And I needed, I'm going to say it, I needed a way to escape, quite honestly, from all the expectations that were put on me. And so that was the first time that I got back into gardening, and not only gardening, but I'm a junk yard type person. I pick up stuff on the corners, like old pots, old dressers, anything like that. I love that kind of stuff so that I can restore it. I love the idea of something growing and maybe having one purpose at first and then, turning into something else altogether. I love that kind of stuff. So that's what I did. I didn't have the money really to devote to a lot of plants and, just a remodel completely, but I gathered enough to be able to create my own little sanctuary to pull away from all that responsibility.
That is so cool. I love the idea of upcycling.
Yeah.
Whatever you can find, whether it's an old boot or a drawer or a box
all
or
lampshades. Girl, lampshades. I have, my husband is a carpenter by trade. I took his old steel toe work boots and planted wildflowers in them, as an ode to us upgrading them. I do all sorts of beautiful things. And it's important. High heel shoes, my granddaughter's jeans, all sorts of things. I have teapots, all sorts of things to add meaning to our life experience.
Oh, that's really cool. And with those, they actually go back and feed the soil, which is really interesting as they break down. So, oh, that's neat. So one of the things that really inspired me when I started to read and learn about your work, Barbara, is how you are transforming not just your own personal life, but other people's lives in connecting them with the power of gardening and transforming and working through things like anxiety and depression and anxiousness and just overall burden and stress and grief into hope.
Yeah.
And transformation and healing. And so and I know you work a lot with houseplants and with yard plants, and you also are a gardener. You grow your own food, and that's also can be some of the things that you work with people. So can you walk us through why and how having our hands in the dirt and meeting, like you say, meet me in the dirt, is so powerful and transformational?
Yeah, I can. Again, people don't think of this way. This, digging in dirt and this playing, honestly, is what it is. This playing can transport us into a different time, a much more calmer time, and a space within our mind, our hearts, to be able to deal with the emotions that we have. We can think about a lot of things, but it actually disconnects us from that a little bit. It helps us to focus solely on what our hands are creating, what we're feeling, what we're smelling. And it allows us, automatically our breathing slows down. We're just relaxing without even knowing it. Like, nature's so beautiful, and all of the gifts that it provides without us even knowing are just available to all of us. And Meet Me in the Dirt honestly started because I ended up going through depression myself. And I'm a very joyous person. This is my spirit 24/7, quite honestly. But even those most optimistic people can have times where life just kicks them in the face. I lost my mother, and my mother's the most poignant loss, but I lost her when I was 24. And at that age, and the way that the country really deals with grief and loss doesn't allow for much processing. You are expected to get right back on the saddle and show up as your normal person, whether you're a mom, a wife, and especially at work. You get 3 to 5 days of bereavement time, and it's time for you to get back to who you were. But the problem is that's gone. Who I was is gone. My mother, my best friend was gone, and there's no way. I'm sorry.
I feel her here with us.
She is.
Yeah.
So there's no way to reconcile that, but you are still expected to show up in all these very normal ways. And so we push it away. And I did that. And I help people who have continually pushed things away to be able to come back into their bodies, come back into the memories, to bring the awareness of who you were, who you are now, and who you can continue to be moving forward, even with the awareness of the absence. And so, woo-hoo. That is dirt. It's really a time to de-stress, honestly, without me even telling them that. I'm walking them through the prompts of smelling the soil, feeling the soil, which is what I did. I didn't even, instinctively, I knew. I went to therapy. I went to a professional therapist, because all of the painting, all of the creativity, all of the gifts that I have, that I know help me be able to deal with grief and stress and whatever's, none of them worked anymore. And that's when we have to really be honest with ourselves and go ask for help from someone who has some information that we need. And then not only just get the information, but apply it. That is the wisdom and the gift that comes from the things we hear and the people that we're around. Excuse me, girl, these tears.
Yeah. Well, you love up those tears of yours. I just want to reflect back to you, Barbara, that you are an incredibly resourceful person. And for anybody watching this and who can relate to maybe where part of the story that Barbara's sharing is, you're incredibly resourceful, Barbara. You're an artist. You have a background in psychology and social work, and so you had this, this toolbox that was like full of resources, and you're still feeling empty, and you're still feeling like that yearning for more support. And so I just want to normalize that, and just if you're watching this right now, just trust you're exactly where you need to be in this moment, and that what you need and your next steps are showing up for you in this very moment. And just to trust where you're at, and to trust all the feels, just sit with those feels. And just I want to invite you to deepen into what Barbara's going to share with us next.
Yes, thank you for that, sister. So true. We have a toolbox. We may not even be aware of how much of a deficit is there. We put into it all those things that society says are helpful, but there are some very free and abundant healing practices and truths around us if we only pay attention to our intuition. Nature is available to all of us. And so I would go to therapy, and then every Saturday, and I would come home, I would do my homework from her, but I instinctively knew to get in the dirt. I don't know, I can't tell you what that is, but I paid extreme attention to things that are very odd. I'm a very quirky kind of person. And so I pay attention to things that are very abnormal. And so that yearning inside of me to want to see things laid flat, laid bare. I went home and I completely gutted our entire backyard. And every Saturday that I came home from my therapy sessions, I was in that dirt, rebuilding the same way that I was rebuilding inside of my heart, rebuilding the thoughts that I had about my mother, the connection I had with her. And mind you, I hadn't dealt with it in about 15, 20 years. It's possible for things to come up much later in life when you don't deal with your stuff. And so this is that post to let you know, to go deal with your stuff, because it's gonna come back, and it may not be at an optimal time, but that's the opportunity when you are ready to deal with it. And I knew that the soil and just being dirty and being back there for hours would heal me. I had every belief in that. And so I began to reconnect with my mother back there as I was building up that beautiful healing garden, placing beautiful treasures that mirrored her life and in my own life as a wife and a mother and a world changer. I keep things very simple, but very impactful. And I created a beautiful space that reflected that entire journey, so much so that when it was time that the therapist told me that I needed to fire her, is her words. I had built for myself a beautiful healing garden, and a true testament and blessing from that too is that I had planted milkweed, which is the host plant for butterflies, for monarch butterflies, not even realizing it. I got them because they had cute little red flowers that looked like little girls' dresses. That's why I planted the milkweed plant. Turns out nothing happens by mistake. As you mentioned, nothing that we've gone through and nothing that we do is by mistake, and we will always be guided back wherever we need to be. Mm-hmm. And so milkweed, I thought aphids had, just devoured it. I saw the aphids and I just threw it in the corner. When I went back to go look again, caterpillars all over it. It's a much more beautiful, longer story that I can tell you about that, which another time, and people that pay attention, I'm going to do a whole video on that. But I saw caterpillars and I began to take care of them as if my life depended upon it, because I needed to feel the inspiration and the transformative power of that miracle. I knew that if I could see the caterpillar go from that stage to the chrysalis and then be closed into that butterfly, there's nothing else that that I wouldn't be able to do. And the gift, the ultimate gift of not only my therapy sessions, but me being in the garden and me building that and going back and capturing that plant that I thought was dead and the caterpillars, that whole process, the butterflies were born. My very first ones were born on my mother's birthday. How much more of an answer do you need that you are healed? It was the most beautiful miracle I've ever received in my life. And so that's why whenever people are with me doing this healing process, I always offer them butterflies. I tell them a story about the monarch. I tell them about why, why it's important to notice the different stages and not be afraid of the caterpillars and the chrysalis and to pay attention to all those little things, because that's us. That's us. The butterflies are us and these plants are us. And I teach people how to see themselves as this natural but fragile growing thing that will be one way transported into another. And then the natural cycle will be that we are elevated, and that's all okay.
All of it. All of it. So beautiful. Oh my gosh. I just finished an interview with Joe Gardner, and we were talking about exactly the same thing, what you're talking about. But in terms of just be mindful of the pests that you see in your garden, because there's a lot of beneficial things out there, and you don't always know what they are. And so being curious about what they are and noticing what their life cycle is really deeply valuable. And now here we're talking about the magic of taking care of caterpillars, which you didn't know what they were. So cool. Oh man. So I'm curious, Barbara, was this intentional when you were working in your backyard? The healing journey, or was it something you kind of discovered as you participated in it?
Yeah, the truth is that there's some things going on inside of us and around us that cause us to do things for our own good. I absolutely believe that. And so I truly believe that I was guided there because I was yielded and open to that work. And so I did not know that Meet Me in the Dirt was going to become a thing. That's where the actual name came from, because I actually did meet me again in the dirt. I met myself, I met my mother. I went back to the very bare truths, the foundation, laying a great foundation again to rebuild the thoughts and the feelings that I had, the connection that I had with her, the connection that I had with myself and my children, and the way that I would operate in the world. Those were things that happened as a result of me saying yes, even in those weird, awkward moments. And so no, there was no plan, but no plan of mine, let's say that.
Right, consciously anyways. One of the things I love about your story, Barbara, is how you intuitively presence yourself with those like nudges that you were hearing to say, come meet me in the dirt. Because I think that we all have that guidance.
Yes. Yes.
And it's something that a lot of us have turned off, or a lot of people have turned off, and they don't even know like what that looks like or feels like.
Yeah.
So I'm curious of what tips you might have for somebody who's like, maybe thinks they might have that those little whispers. Like what are we looking for and listening for in those moments?
You must silence all voices, all noise, quite honestly. And in this day that is awkward for a lot of people, very uncomfortable, and they feel very loud. The silence can be very loud when you have not learned how to slow down and pay attention to yourself. And so even helping people be able to do that, and I'm going to say the word meditate or pray, some of those words seem very jarring. And if you're in a heightened sense, it's very difficult for you to kind of settle into that. But it's the practice. It's the practice of gardening. It's the practice of, meditating and quieting yourself inside so that the outside can then reflect that too. And so that is the key: slowing down, setting dedicated time for you to not have on television, not have on the radio, turn off the social media, get away from people, quite honestly, so that you're silent, you're quiet, and preferably you're outside in nature or in your house around your plants, because there is still language being spoken. There is still sound and imagery going on in our minds, but keeping all of that other stuff away helps us to make sense of that. You will breathe slower. Naturally, you'll breathe slower, and breathing out of your mouth. Even when I'm working or during the day, I've practiced it so much now, I find myself breathing out of my mouth, exhaling whatever I felt like was so heavy in there. So I find moments every single day to gift myself silence, honestly, so that I can hear me. That's the goal. You need to be able to hear your voice amongst all those other voices, all of them.
Yeah, I love that. There's so much power in slowing down and quieting the voices. And at the same time, I don't know if this is true for you, if you've heard of this. I'm just presencing myself with people that's so far away for them and everything else is so loud. And sometimes it's just like a fleeting thought, like, oh, I want to do this, or oh, what if I did that? Oh, maybe I should call so and so. So it can be like, if you are in that space where it's like you're being bombarded and hit by all the outside stuff, and you have those like little ideas or inklings, that's also your inner wisdom speaking to you. That's something you can really pay attention to and listen to.
Absolutely. So I journal. I'm an avid journaler, and people know that's one of the things that I even weave into the Meet Me in the Dirt process. All those thoughts, we don't know which ones will evolve into something that could be not only beneficial for us, but just a light out in the world, such as Meet Me in the Dirt. So I write down all the things. Julia Cameron has a book out, and I don't remember if it was a conference that I went to or what it was, but it's called The Artist's Way, and she talked about doing morning pages. Morning. Some people don't like to journal because they're like, I don't know what to write down. I don't know, and I'm like, honestly, you stop yourself by just being so nervous about that. Don't judge it. Just start writing. And it's different from texting. Longhand writing, the way that we learned when we were growing up, that is even a relaxation technique. Some of the most simple things that we did years, and I hate to say years ago because it makes me feel like I'm like 90. But it was years ago. But I longhand write. I still do daily to get some of that clutter out and to capture those unique ideas, because they will come back. There's a lot of things that I'm doing here. This dream that even came about in this wellness center is a result of some dreams and visions that I had written out years ago. And so it's an opportunity for you to be able to go back and see where you've grown and how spirit has deposited little hints, for you to notice if you're quiet enough. That's what I'm saying. Even you being quiet and still enough to be like, okay, what does that mean? And why is that so interesting to me, kind of thing?
Yes. And gardening is a wonderful way to quiet into that. So Barbara, show us some of the work that you do with the dirt and the soil and the plants to help connect people more deeply with healing and decompressing, moving through that anxiety and depression and some of the heaviness in life.
Oh, yes. And so, of course, it would be ideal if everybody could meet me in the dirt in person, but that's, not always ideal. And so even if we're doing it virtually, as long as the people have all the materials there, they're able to join me in this process. And so Meet Me in the Dirt really is about being able to deal with transitions. While I'm speaking, we are using our hands, which takes us out of the thinking mind and gets us into the emotional pieces, which is what I was telling you about. And so in the very beginning, they are automatically presented with, soil, dark, rich soil. And a lot of times their eyes are closed. I am guiding them through a meditation, through a prayer, while their hands are immersed in this soil. They are feeling it. They are putting the soil on top of their hands, noticing what it feels like to be covered, noticing what it feels like to be surrounded, even noticing all the different little pieces, in the soil, and thinking about what could that rock, symbolize in my life? What could this stick be used for? To build or as a weapon, and thinking about times in my life where that was a thing, right? And then we move from the soil into understanding that this is also us. Each of the persons are able to choose their own plants, choose their own. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Choose a plant that speaks to them. I have tons of plants out all the time, and everybody goes around and grabs the plant that speaks to them, and then they look at it. I have them, turn the plant around in their hands and kind of assess where it is. Do they see anything that's faulty, or something that they would feel like makes them think it's something wrong with it? So they examine the plant, which is them, up close and far away, so that you can understand that the entire plant is what we should be focusing on, not the little bitty things that you see, are sort of deterrents or not right, right? And so then we talk about how to move from this nursery pot, which we did not create, which we had no parts in this foundation. This may have been our parents or our caretakers, soil that they laid, all the beliefs that they had, and, that whole thing, right? But it's time, if you stayed here, clearly we wouldn't grow to our fullest potential. So we make a concerted effort and intention to move from this place into a much more desirable location. And we understand that when we move from here, that the soil that falls away needs to, because it's been depleted of all of the nutrients that it had, and we would not grow anymore to our fullest capacity if we stayed there. And so I have them add foundation at the bottom, foundation that they actually explored on their own. They understood it, that it was abundant to them, and they were able to create their own foundation with their own thoughts in their new location, whether it was them thinking about leaving a career or leaving a relationship, or even them leaving the awareness of who they were at a certain time in their life and coming into more of who they are. They grab themselves, and sometimes, you might come out of a situation easily, but other times you might be forced. And so we talk about what it feels like to be forced and to have to force yourself out of a situation, right? And then we look at what falls away. And then not only what falls away if it doesn't fall away naturally, but we pull some of this away, because in the beginning we had abundant soil, and we know that that is full of nutrients, full of what we would need to be able to thrive in our new place. And we're preparing the place. We're not going into where somebody else prepared for us, right? We look at this life that we've had here, this mess that we've created, and the tendency sometimes is to try to clean that up, but in the garden, we don't clean that up because it's not necessary anymore. Where we're going, we take what we have. All we need is a remnant of what was. And then we support ourselves with this abundant soil all around us. And that may be friends, that may be your faith, that may be, different practices that you have to come in and to steady you, right? In your new place, this new thought, this new relationship, you are steadying yourself with more foundation. You are, allowing yourself to be supported. And you are telling the whole world what it takes for you to thrive by doing this yourself. And you're reminding yourself that you are resourceful. You can do big things. You can move through life. You can move, even if you were forced to, into better conditions. And then we add in fertilizer. We add in fertilizer because that's what feeds our plants. But that represents, again, friends. That represents encouragement from all sorts of beautiful, healthy people, right? And so we think about that. And then we talk about what it takes to maintain this. We talk about the very few things that it'll take to maintain this baby here, which are bright indirect light. When we're talking about houseplants, bright indirect light, regular watering, and then love. And when you think about it, quite honestly, that is like us. We need very few things. We complicate life a lot, but if you prioritize and you're able to really think about what are those few things, just the few things that I need to thrive. Every single time we see our new baby, we'll think about ourselves, we'll be talking to our baby. We've already named her because the process of what we did showed us that we can do hard things. And that entire process is something that we can do again and again and again. And then we always add a butterfly to remind us that we will continually change, continually morph into new versions of ourselves, and that we will be untouchable by most things. We will land where we choose, and then we will leave when we're done. That's me in the back.
Amen to that. Amen to that, Barbara. Yeah. So powerful. So powerful. And I just want to invite each person, I just want to invite you watching this to imagine bringing this awareness into your gardening practices, whether it's with plants or food that you're growing in your house, or when you're out in your garden. Imagine the transformation and the healing transformation that each of us can have, bringing that into, the seeds that we sow, that awareness that into the seeds that we sow into, the weeds that we're pulling out and maybe not necessarily throwing away, but we're putting them back onto the ground or into the compost that's turning into nutritious food for the plants and the soil. And there's just so much in there. There's so much in there, Barbara.
I get it. We don't throw anything away before we examine it. Like I said, even the mess that we made of our life and the things we leave behind, understanding that we can never go back here. There's no way to fit back here. And those old thoughts, the old place, like it'll never be that. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's totally okay. And it just gives us so much permission to not just meet me in the dirt, but also meet me where I'm at,
Yeah.
like meet me where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dirt equalizes. We're all starting at the same place. And so that's what we always talk about. Soil equalizes everybody's position. It's where we start and where we end. And so all of the in-between things are just details. So we all start at the same space and can grow.
Yeah, we all start at the same place and we're all in different parts of the transition, right? So whether we're that plant that's just been taken out of that pot and we're finding our roots and our footing again, or we've just been planted into that new safe place and we're like, okay, what supports do I need to invite into my life? What people do I need to be speaking to? What foods do I need to be eating?
Absolutely. Same thing. It's the same way that we intentionally think about how we are providing a great foundation for this plant. That's the way that we're going to be thinking about our lives. Again, whether we're moving from one relationship to another, dealing with a loss of a loved one and thinking about life, after their elevation, all of those considerations need time. And it needs to be witnessed. You need supportive people that can have that conversation with you, that can, as easily as we talked about these plants and being able to move with them, you need people who can have that conversation with you, who are not afraid to be uncomfortable, and that can continue to show up and have that conversation with you again and again and again.
Barbara, what do you most want people to know and understand about gardening?
That it's not an old person's thing. It's not for old people. Please don't wait. Please, or if it is, whatever. It's for old people, babies, and all the in-betweens, and that it makes you so much more of a lovely person. If you struggle with perfection, garden. Struggle with anxiety, gardening. If you struggle with just finding meaning, gardening. Because again, you need time away to really hear from yourself. And I want you, meet me in the dirt is how I do it, but you will develop your own practice and your own awarenesses based upon how you move and how you assess the foundations that you're creating for yourself. The soil is for everybody. Planting is for everybody and necessary. We all need to be meeting in the dirt.
Yes. And I know you've shared some of your story and how gardening has impacted you emotionally. And I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more, if you have anything to add to how gardening has impacted your own personal health, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually.
So, oh girl. So let me tell you, gardening does touch on and change and impact all of those areas, all of the alleles. Mm-hmm. First of all, physically, you are moving this body, you are agile and you are actively moving, which is a physical benefit. Gardening that reduces depression and anxiety, right? It helps you to come again out of all the worrying and that kind of thing, right? Mentally, looking at, in science, this isn't Barbara stuff. This is science stuff, I promise you. Us being around nature, touching it, smelling soil, looking at nature automatically helps us to de-stress, automatically lowers your blood pressure, automatically releases serotonin, which is the happy drug. People think, I'm going to say this, people think I'm high all the time. It's not high on stuff. I promise you, I'm high on life.
Yeah, literal life, right? You're high on life and you're high on life, like the life that's in front of you, in the soil, in the plant.
Yes. literally and figuratively. And that's because I know how to get back to my source. I know what to do to ground myself. And so it provides instruction to me. It provides space for me to receive instruction from inside of me, not from out there. And so sometimes we're always seeking other people to sort of tell us what to do, where to go. No, you have it within you, and another person can witness that and maybe put you in an environment to discover it on your own. But that is your work. And that's the only way that you will find this peace and this tranquility and this healing and this hope that you see others that are like me, that are gardeners and that have taken the plunge and stay in this green side. That is what we experience daily. It's not that it's that our lives are less stressful, less wrought with all sorts of things happening. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur. So yes, I have stuff, but let me tell you, that stuff is easier to deal with because I know what it takes to bring me back down, to stay here. Staying here helps you be able to make better decisions. It helps you know what to say no to and what to say yes to. It helps you know who to say no to and who to say yes to. And the first yes you need to give is to yourself, your own permission, daily.
Yes, yes. Barbara, if you were to leave us with one challenge, what would that be?
So even if you're not able to be in that space by yourself, I would prefer and I would suggest and recommend that you do this by yourself. Even if you are not, I would ask that you would find someone. You can even call it, you can meet me in the dirt for this, but I would ask that you do this in community with someone else who has a similar yearning to de-stress and to find meaning of life. I would ask that you go, hurry up, and find some dirt. Take your shoes off if you're outside, walk around like we did as children, bend over, touch it, sit down in it, allow yourself to be childlike in this life we have, this one short life we have. Allow yourself to reconnect with those things that made you feel very free. Even if, in the midst of all sorts of hard stuff, there was something or somebody that made you feel free. Document that so that when you are dealing with your stuff, you know that you can go get near your plants, you can go near nature, and then you can, reconnect to that memory. Breathe slower, live on purpose, be of service out there in the best way possible. And that's all I gotta say.
So beautiful, Barbara. Was there anything else you want to add before we wrap?
Again, it's ideal if you can come here and meet me in the dirt, but I'm in California, sunny California. I know, don't be jealous. Look at it.
I know, right?
So you may not be able to meet me here, but I do online meet me in the dirt sessions. You would have the same materials available to you and we would go through it together. And again, this is for grief. Counseling is my specialty. That is grief, transition, anxiety, depression, all those sorts of things. I help you be able to do that in creative ways that are outside of what we know to be the box norm of our mental health system that we have right now. This simply is not working.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Barbara, for sharing your heart and some of your incredible work with us. And that's a small part of your story and journey. I know it's going to change the lives of every single person who listens and watches this conversation with you. And I know you're changing lives around the world through your programs in Meet Me in the Dirt. So thank you for connecting us with nature, helping us deepen into who we are, and learning how to love on nature and love on ourselves and each other.
Yes. Without loving yourself, it's not possible to love anyone else deeply.
Yeah. Thank you, Barbara.
First, you are welcome, my love. Thank you for inviting me.
Follow and find Barbara at her website, meetmeinthedirt.com, and on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Meet Me in the Dirt. Wherever you're at in life, whether you're a butterfly fluttering around, feeling free, or You're feeling like you're the chrysalis in a pool of goo, or maybe you're the caterpillar just walking around, munching on what you could get. Know and trust you're exactly where you need to be in this moment and at this time. Nourish yourself emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually with what you feel feeds you, what nourishes you, and what moves you forward, and with what meets you really where you're at. Just like Barbara talked about, we're all at different places. And at the same time, we all start and end in the same place. So just trust in life supporting you and happening for you, because it really is. Even when it feels like it's not, life is happening for you. And I just want to invite you to step into that and to feel into that. And when you are in the garden or imagining yourself in the garden, notice and feel life organizing around your success, just like the seed knows how to sprout and emerge into a plant and to drop roots down into the earth and into the soil. You have an innate wisdom to grow and to heal. You have an innate wisdom to harvest the learnings and to compost the hard parts of life. You have an innate wisdom to turn towards the people and the circumstances and the resources that are going to feed your soul and to feed you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Notice what those are. And I invite you to meet yourself in the dirt, to take your socks off and feel your feet in the soil, and just let your hands sift through all the different parts of life, trusting and noticing what you want to hold on to and what you want to let go of. Thank you so much for joining us for the Gardening Summit. You make yourself an amazing day. A big love.